Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. And Leo just came in. Could we just have a roll call?
Bill Brown,
Here.
Annie Adams,
Here.
Leonardo, that's great, Kovis, Kara Dudek, here, Cynthia Hoyle, Audrey Ishii,
Here.
Susan Jones, Jeff Marino,
Here.
Craig Schunkweiler,
Here.
Nancy Westcott,
Here.
Lily Wilcox.
Here. We have a quorum.
Okay, we have a quorum. Thank you. Are there any additions to the agenda? Is there, can we move? Can we have a motion to approve the agenda? That'd be an action, wouldn't it? There was a little notification problem with the agenda because it didn't get posted to the website 48 hours ahead. So we can't take any official actions tonight, so we won't be making motions and voting on anything, but we weren't really planning to anyway. So the only thing it will really affect is our minutes. We won't approve those until next month. But if you've, so if you have corrections, you can mention them, but you'll have to mention them again next month. But I think we can go ahead and approve the agenda.
Is there a printout of the agenda?
There is one in back. You can share
Thank
mine.
you.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Everybody's afraid to make the motion now. Okay, the agenda's okay the way it is. Okay. Did anybody have any corrections to the minutes from last month? Okay. Public input. There doesn't seem to be any public for input. Nancy does have an email that she'd like to share, so Nancy.
Okay, is this on?
No, it is.
Okay. I went to a PACE meeting and was talking with someone with low vision. Her name is Sherry Giles, and she sent me an email which I've forwarded to Barb and Bill. I was going to present the whole thing tonight, but I'm not quite sure how to connect it. But at any rate, there is a picture that should come up. Well, this is her. And her basic comment is yellow paint is a wonderful thing, and if it could be done more frequently on narrow, deep-set cutouts, it would be really great, because it's easy to turn and trip over the curb, basically. And if it's painted yellow, then it's much easier to see during daylight hours. She was particularly talking about the narrow, I guess it's about the standard size sidewalks, like the 48-inch sidewalks. Those are fairly narrow, and if you hit it just the wrong way, or if you decide to, some of the crossing sidewalks there have a really small triangle, and if you change your mind on which direction you want to go and you don't see the curb, you can just trip over it. And that's also the case like at Main and the southeast corner of Main and Race, for example. If you change your mind, you can trip. But at any rate, she said that yellow paint is really inexpensive, and particularly in these older sections of the city where you have really deep cutouts, yellow paint would be very helpful.
Do you know where the picture was taken, Nancy?
At Oregon and Matthews.
Okay.
And she was really grateful, at least for this, and would like that to be an example.
Can I ask why? I was actually just wondering about this the other day, and maybe people over here can answer. And so you see there's that triangle of yellow. Is there a reason why that doesn't just go to 0? Like why that's not just like a negative space? Why we actually put a curb in that area? Does that question make sense? I'm assuming there's a reason for it. I can
answer that.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Anywhere we can have directional
lines, it's better than to have it go to zero. So by having those two parallel lines, that then orients vision impaired people. If you don't have it, then they could actually walk diagonally out into the intersection. Now, larger intersections, a lot of them on campus, we do have the depressed curb, curb return, but if we can get the directional, that's actually a national standard to have that. So that would be called, we call this a two-point ramp because there's 2 points of entry.
Is there, do you know if there's a policy on which ones get painted yellow and which ones don't?
Well, actually, we as far as I understand, we don't paint any curbs yellow. And it's really a staffing, budgetary issue. Doesn't mean that we can't, entertain and look into this feasibility of it. If this is yellow here, it's likely because being at Oregon on Matthews, maybe it's something the university had done. But I know that Urbana, we've had requests in the past, and we used to paint yellow curbs, but it's my understanding that they're no longer painted, and it has to do with budgetary issues.
Do you know if it has to be an all or none thing? Like if you paint yellow curbs, is there something that kicks in that says you have to paint all of these, the ends?
That's a good question.
medians?
I think it does come down to sometimes it could be, well, if you start, why did you do it at certain locations, and why didn't you do it at other locations? Obviously this has been painted at some point, but I don't know the reason why. But tell you, we can look into this and see what options we have. I don't have a particular reason.
A really useful place to paint them would be where there are walk buttons, because sometimes, like in Main and Race and Main and Vine, on the southeast corners, there's kind of a curb between the dip
Right.
and where the button is, and you can trip over that curb getting to the button.
Right.
So even if you did those, that would make me happy, but.
Right. So we'll look into it and, see what our options are. So.
Okay, thanks. Did anyone else have public input? I heard from public on a few things, but I didn't get an official email, but I know some people are concerned about the amount of chips that were put on some of the oil and chip streets, and I've tried to explain that it will eventually get either worked in or swept up, but just have to ask people to be patient on that. It does seem like there was some inconsistency. I don't know if you guys have contacted the contractor and asked him to.
The product itself is a little bit hard to do a uniform rate on it. In a typical rural application, the rate is a lot thinner and the chips are different. This one here, this is actually a slag product. It's a steel slag. And it goes down heavy for a reason, and that's basically, it's a real fine level product, and we have the oil that goes down, and we want it to basically blend together and provide a good sealant over the top. And yeah, it takes some time to get it seated in, and then of course they roll it in, and then we'll come back through and begin sweeping it up. I've been telling people it's a temporary situation. When I came here, I drove around the Huna area, and I counted 4 bicycles riding on it. I think I've ridden on it. It can be. You just have to be cautious. I think the point here is it's a cost-effective and beneficial way to seal the streets. This year we did over 8 miles of streets. The last 3 years we've done over 17 miles of streets. Before that, we weren't doing very much, to be honest with you. So we're really trying to reclaim, I guess I would say, our streets and not lose them before they get bad. Another alternative to this is we don't do those things. We look at other alternatives, but those then require ADA ramp compliance. So if we put down, for instance, a microsurfacing, the Department of Justice has determined that we have to fix curb ramps. So instead of doing 8 miles of streets, then we would literally do probably a mile, and we'd have to fix all the curb ramps in there. I'm not saying that we don't want to fix curb ramps, but we have to balance out trying to maintain all these miles of streets that we have with a cost-effective product. This one here has been proven to be cost-effective. It seems to seal up the cracks. So just bear with us, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I would like to say I saw on multiple different, like on Facebook, there were multiple like community discussions about it, and cyclists. I know cyclists have complained about it, but there were a lot of drivers complaining about it. But I actually just really want to say I felt like people responded really well to people's questions. People were able to link to resources on the City of Urbana's website. Someone actually, Craig, you sent someone an email. They actually posted your email on there. I was very impressed with it, and I was very happy to see people just say it costs a lot of money. Our streets cost a lot of money. Like this isn't, so it's. And it's a reality that, like, we're all going to have to start dealing with. That the funding for streets is changing. So I was just really impressed with how that was handled, because I know I freaked out when it happened on my street on Wabash. I was like, "What is this?" But I was just really impressed with the response. So I just want to say I thought that was really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I think it does help just for people to get information. It really makes it a lot easier. The other comment I had from someone was they really liked the new Green Street treatments and bike lanes, but then now all of a sudden you notice how suddenly it ends once you cross Lincoln Avenue, and that won't be done for a couple of years. So I was wondering if in our either wayfinding plan that maybe we could put it on future topics or something, we might be able to direct people to either Elm Street or Illinois Street after that first, I guess, Kohler would probably be the right place to do it.
Yeah, because Busey has a brick street that's slated for repair here in the future. But Kohler would be the one to go down, and we put that treatment that we referenced on Illinois to preserve that street. That's all been swept up now, and then the rest of Illinois is nicely paved. So that
Okay, so maybe we could either put that on future topics, or if you guys want to talk about it, bring us something, that'd be good too.
I would just say on that, one comment is Busey Avenue is actually, we could actually do a 3-mile Busey bikeway, which would actually be a nice, because it seems like we're trying to not put bikes on Lincoln, and it seems like if we did the 3-mile Busey bikeway, it would actually connect all those things. So if in the future we are thinking about fixing Busey, because Busey is quite a crazy ride right now, for a variety of reasons, that's just something to think about, and just an idea, but it runs the whole length of the city, 3 miles, and it's quite nice. So.
Okay, thanks. Let's move on to unfinished business. Bicycle-friendly community reapplication. Craig.
I just want to give an update that Champaign Regional Plan Commission helped us update or perform a reapplication for this bicycle-friendly community. Our fee with them was about $3,500. We also had staff. I know Kevin assisted. I assisted. Various people. I know Leo and Cynthia particularly provided a lot of input. The application was pretty long. I mean, it's a very long process, but that deadline was August 9th, and we made that. So now we just wait for a decision here probably in November is what we're thinking, is what we're being told. One thing that I want to highlight here is the application. What is a good thing out of it is it really helps us or sensitizes us to the values that the League of Illinois Bicyclists has. And I think that's an important component. I mean, there's a lot of things in there that, you're reading and saying, maybe we're deficient in that and we need to step up a little bit, or we're doing fairly well, So I just want to point that out.
Okay, thanks. Any questions on that? I know you sent it out, or Gabe sent it out, I think, to the committee a few days before I was out of town, so I didn't get a chance to read the 56 pages on my phone, so I didn't really get much back. I did look at it later and saw a couple things I hope somebody caught, because, you know, we do have an ordinance. It's not just a policy, stuff like that.
Well, you know, we looked into some of those, though, and we do, I guess some of that was tricky wording. So what we did was we erred on the side of caution. You know, I think some of those that you were mentioning, there was an ordinance passed for a policy. So there's a difference there between the two. So if that makes sense, the ordinance was allowing us to enter into a policy, but the actual document, like the complete streets, is actually a policy, not a, because it's a part of the comprehensive plan. And there were things like that. Yeah, we did pour through that in detail. So.
Okay. Thanks. And then there was a follow-up survey that I guess the league sends out. There was a link to a survey that people should spread around, and that survey has no impact on whether or not we get gold or whatever. It's just a follow-up survey so that they will compile the results and return it with our ranking, so that we have some more. It's a more standard survey, I guess, compared to other communities, and just for more input. So did everyone get a link? Get that link? Okay. So spread that around. Make sure people are taking that. Any other questions on that? Okay. New business. National Bike Challenge. Cynthia's not here. She just last week brought up the idea of BPAC participating in National Bike Challenge. Champaign County Bikes used to do something. I used to have a group organization. I used to do it years ago, and I connected my Strava account. I thought maybe it was still, you know, uploading. So I checked just yesterday, and they changed it a little bit. Now it's Love to Ride instead of National Bike Challenge. So it's lovetoride.net. And I think if you signed up years ago, you aren't currently connected, but you can still make the connection. So I looked at it a little bit. Here's what Cynthia sent. So I think she wanted to try to get something for September, but when I looked at it, it looked like the thing coming up in September is like an organizational challenge for small groups, like work groups, with a maximum of 8 people per team, and you have to pay $9 per person plus a $50 setup charge. So I'm not real enthusiastic about trying to do something like that because it doesn't involve a lot of people, although you do get extra points for recruiting new riders, things like that. It's a little soon to, I mean, it's kind of short notice to try to get something going, I think. But if the committee feels differently, I mean, we should talk about it. How many people are familiar with National Bike Challenge? Have you signed up before? Anyone? A few people, maybe half. Basically what it is, you sign up and then log your miles, or else if you connect it to an app you're already using that tracks your miles, that makes the login easier. Or you can do a combination, like I would log my commuter miles because I didn't usually use the app to track my commuter miles, but then for the longer rides I would use the Strava app so it would automatically upload. But then you get points for riding 1 point per mile and 10 points, I think it was, per day. So it kind of, if you just rode a couple miles a day, you got extra points for that. So it kind of favored commuters in that sense, or daily riding, basically encouraged daily riding. And then when I looked at the other day, it looks like now they have extra points for signing up new riders. And you can register yourself, it's free. You can assign yourself to a community, so you can, I think it automatically assigned me to Champaign-Urbana, and there's only 18 people in that community. So it used to be a lot bigger. I mean, I think, do you remember, Charlie, were there like 100 or so in Champaign County when Champaign County Bikes did it? But now I think my feeling is that people are using other apps, maybe a variety of other apps to track their miles. So maybe it's not quite as popular because of that. It did definitely help me, I think, encourage me to ride every day. That was the thing. You know, some days you think, I'll just drive to the store, but I could get 10 points if I rode my bike. So yeah, it does stuff like that. And it's kind of interesting to compare your riding to other people and challenging. So are there any opinions on that? Anybody want to try to set up a...
So how long is it, like for the year, or is it?
Well, yeah, it used to be a few months, like 6 months, I think, and now they've changed it so they have several different things during the year. I think there's still a summer challenge, but now they do a September. The September challenge is more like small group organization based, and then I didn't really look to see what else was available, but maybe we should maybe, I mean, my suggestion, if there's not a lot of discussion, is just for people to check it out and read what Cynthia sent. I don't really think, I mean, we could probably get something going by email to do something in September if people are interested, but I think maybe if we looked at and thought about it for the upcoming year, it might be better.
Yeah, I kind of think I agree with you. The question I have for Cynthia is why is, I'm just trying to figure out like why we should do this. I know there's Bike to Work Month, and I feel like we put there's a lot of energy and excitement around that, and I'm not worried. I just don't know, will this confuse? Obviously it won't confuse the 8, if 8 of us sign up, it won't confuse 8 of us. We know what we're doing. I'm just trying to, what I want to ask Cynthia is, what's the win here for us? Like, why, if we're all already biking a lot, or I'm just not quite sure. That's just what I'm confused about. So that's my question.
She did mention the bicycle-friendly community designation. Asked a question about that last time. Do you remember anything about National Bike Challenge on this year's application?
It's in there.
Is it in there? Because they are a sponsor. The League of American Bicyclists is a sponsor, co-sponsor of National Bike Challenge. So it might help. It's too late, obviously, for this one, but it might help if we had some kind of challenge going for next time.
So I've looked into doing this at the university, and I've reached out to a couple people trying to gauge interest before, you throw a lot of time into something. And a lot of the interest that I got was really out of Campus Rec, and they were like, hey, can we use this as an encouragement to do mostly spin classes? And Love to Ride didn't take very well to that. So that was kind of a discouraging point of the campaign, but if this something that we could partner with people outside of like Urbana Business Association. I have seen this happen in other places where businesses successfully compete against each other. Particularly like hospitals and government agencies, they get really competitive.
Yeah, maybe if we had a little
steps.
more lead time and could get 8 or 10 businesses to come up with 8-person teams or something.
Yeah. Annie, you took a walking challenge this summer, right? And you thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
like
participated in, it was very simple, but it was, you just kind of logged your miles on an Excel sheet, and it's exactly what Bill said. It very much encouraged me to be like, I am going to go run 5 miles. I am, yes, I will walk over here, and it just made you a lot more aware of the points you were making or getting. So I really liked it.
So there are opportunities for people to break into groups and it be really rewarding. I think, though, that does take a little bit of planning, and I think a lot of the fact that you knew about that kind of challenge was because there was someone in the department doing these kinds of organizations, and it had been there for some time. So I think maybe if we had more time to plan it, we could put some resources into it and make it substantially. But I would ask the same thing, too, as well, to Cynthia.
Ideally, I would like us to do something like this for Bike to Work Month. Is what
Right.
I would ideally like to see. So that's kind of if we're going to put effort into something like this. And again, it's as easy as an Excel sheet. You do need someone to organize it, but that was all. It was. I mean, it was through the university, but yeah.
I mean, Bike to Work Month is already pretty busy. You could actually use Bike to Work Month to promote it and do it the next month or something and try to.
Or you do it in September when it's back to school, but we just have some time to.
The way I used to challenges like this for Bike to Work Month when I've lived in other cities is it was done. It was actually done during Bike to Work. It was actually done as part of Bike to Work Month to encourage others, and you would be a team lead at your corporation, and people would come ask you, and you'd build your team, and your team would compete against like the Field Museum, or whatever team, and it was actually that Bike to Month was the whole month, and that was the whole thing, and then at the end you had a big rally like on Daly Plaza, and everybody celebrated, and yay, I biked, and so that was kind of the way it was. It was actually more of that's the way Bike to Work Month actually worked.
It is a lot easier though because it's Bike to Work Week. That's easier for all the organizations and the team leaders to do that because that particular huge festivity and that kind of ground level grassroots. There's one person for each company coordinating their coworkers and people they know. Is that it was week long, and here it's a month long, which is awesome, but it makes it a little bit harder.
They did have some statistics on the website about if you encourage someone to start riding, what percentage of them ended up riding to work a couple times a week, and it was higher than I would have thought. I don't remember exactly. It's like 30% or something like that.
It absolutely. People I know who once they start bike commuting, once they get over their initial, this is crazy, it is absolutely addicting, is what I have found. So I would love some sort of incentive program like this if we could figure out. And maybe it is, maybe what Cynthia's really suggesting is that maybe BPAC tries to figure out a way to organize this, and maybe she's thinking this structure here is the structure that we could use. So that's an idea.
Yeah.
So the Champaign-Urbana Schools Foundation sponsored a fundraising race out at the Pines near Milo, where Red Bicycle ice cream is. And that was, I believe it was in... a month ago? Yeah, in July. Okay. Did you participate? And so the schools held a contest to see who could sign up the most runners from staff, faculty and staff of the school, Champaign versus Urbana, who could have the fastest runner. I know Dono and the superintendent of Urbana participated. I don't know whether that was true of Champaign, but anyway, it was set up as a contest, and with basically out-of-pocket donations for the losers. Urbana was willing to pay for 116, Urbana School District 116 versus he suggested 400, but they didn't go for that from just Unit 4. But anyway, so there was pretty good participation. Urbana came just one short of beating Champaign this year. And I think it's a one evening event. It was just a single race, but Don Owen's been really behind it, behind having this competition for this. So I think with a little more lead time, I have one concern about this bike challenge is I know the logging has been very difficult in the past. To register and log, you had to be a real gearhead to do that. And I don't know if there'd be some way to greatly ease that. I mean, the last thing teachers need is another database to get into and start logging things. That would absolutely have to be as easy as possible.
Yeah, the one I did this summer was just like a web form, and you would just put in 20,000 steps, 30,000 steps, and you could obviously you could track it on your phone, or you could just guesstimate, which is pretty much what I did. It's not science. I mean, it's not science. To do these things, you don't have to have Strava. I don't know if this.
But if this is online, someone could, maybe a team captain could do all the logging if they just put it in a web sheet. If that could be uploaded,
when I looked at it, it was pretty easy to just enter your miles. The first thing that came up on the screen when you logged in, they'll remember your login was, you pull down with how many miles you rode that day, and I think another pull down saying whether it was a commute or recreation or whatever.
They should have it linked to Fitbit or something.
But it was hard to see results, and it was also hard to if you encourage somebody, you have to get to sign up, then you have to get them to enter that you were the one that encouraged them to sign up. That part was a little hard to find, so it wasn't real user-friendly, but the entering miles was pretty straightforward. And there was more than, it was, if you wanted to link it to an app, there were 4 or 5 apps besides Strava that you could link it to, like Map My Ride, and I think a couple
But each
other.
individual has to do their own logging.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, so maybe, maybe think about that for future.
It might be a good idea for maybe a couple of us to sign up to do it this year, just to see what it's like. Just, poke around, do some,
Are you volunteering?
yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
thank you.
Anytime.
Anyone else?
You said it's free for individuals?
Yeah, it's free for individuals.
Craig should volunteer with me. That'll be great.
Okay. Next is 2018 Brick Sidewalk Repair Project Update. And a few other things that Brad Bennett was going to update us on.
Thank you for having me this evening. I'm going to kind of jump in and out of the slideshow here, so. So the first thing I'm going to talk about with you this evening is just a quick update on what we're proposing for the 2018 Brick Sidewalk Repair Project. So for this year, we're looking at doing 2,064 feet of brick sidewalk repair. I'm going to show you some maps that have all the locations of it. They are spot repairs, so we're not doing like an entire block at a time. These are sections we've gone out and surveyed and identified problems in a particular section of the sidewalk that requires repair. We're estimating the cost of it as $65,000. We won't know till we open bids what the actual cost of it is. We're tentatively looking at September 12th for the bid opening on this project, and we're hoping that we get all the repairs done in fall of 2018. And this is where I'm going to jump out real quick and jump into my maps. Oh, let's see if I can make this bigger. Oop, where'd my thing go? A little bigger. Try to zoom in here a little bit for you. So this is the overall location map that we're looking at. Last year, most of our repairs were east of Vine Street, so this year we're focusing on doing repairs essentially west of Vine Street, kind of between Race and Lincoln Avenues where most of these repairs are. And I do have blow-ups of each individual one, so I'll show those to you. But that's just kind of the overall location map throughout Urbana here. Let me zoom out a little bit. So this is one of the repair locations here up at Oregon and Walnut. And you can see for each of the locations we identify how many square feet of sidewalk that we're looking at. Some other repair locations along California Avenue here. Another one here on High Street between Birch and Cedar. One near the intersection of California and Busey. And like I said, you can see these are all spot repairs. Another repair over here on Oregon, just west of Kohler. Some repairs on Oregon, east of McCullough. A number of repairs here on Nevada between Birch and Cedar. Some repairs kind of close to the intersection of Illinois and Busey. I think that's the last one. So I'll close that down real quick and hop back into the slideshow here. So I did go out and take a couple pictures of, just of certain repairs. I don't have every single repair shown here, but this is some examples. So you can see in this particular picture, the city had previously removed some heaped bricks, and our typical temporary patches to put in this crushed red granite, which is kind of the stone you see in there. So we're going to be making some repairs in this section to, replace the bricks that were previously removed because of heaving issues. And on all these photos, these are 2D photos, so you can't really see the undulation that you typically see on these on brick sidewalks. So some of these you might say, well, it doesn't look really that bad. When you actually get out there and look at how uneven and inconsistent the surface is, I mean, they're actually very difficult to walk. This one you can see, once again, some missing brick. And like I said, the picture really doesn't do it justice, but there is quite a bit of undulation in the brick sidewalk itself. And the same on this picture. If you try to walk this, it's a very kind of uneven walk because the bricks have heaved, for this particular section. So there are some examples of some of the typical brick repair locations that we're doing around town. So that kind of covers the portion I had on brick sidewalk repairs. I did want to talk a little bit about another maintenance item that we worked on with the brick sidewalks this year that we hadn't done in the last couple of years is vegetation management, or the spraying of brick sidewalks to eliminate the grass that grows across them. So this year we did do 30 blocks of sidewalk. They started in the middle of July. This is something that our Arbor Landscape Division did, and they used a product called Ranger Pro, which is a glyphosate. I think I misspelled that incorrectly on there, but it's similar to a Roundup type product. And what we did, we put together a notification letter. I apologize, this is difficult to read on the screen, but we did put a letter that went out to every property where we did the spraying at, alerting them to the fact that we were doing it. It also offered people an opportunity, if they didn't want us to spray because of landscaping that they had installed in the parkway or in their front yard right up to it, that they could contact us, and we would avoid spraying those locations, if they would take care of it with some other method. The only method we were using for vegetation control was the herbicide application. We weren't offering any natural options or anything like that. So that was the letter that we sent out. These were some of the locations. We kind of did it in 2 rounds. The first round was what's shown here, highlighted in yellow. You can see it was a fairly large section. The red lines are where we have brick sidewalk here in Urbana. And then we did actually have staff time available that after they finished kind of the initial area, we went actually back and did some additional areas. Those are highlighted in yellow here. So these were in addition to the ones that they did earlier. And then I just want to take a couple photos and show you what it looked like. And unfortunately, I didn't get before pictures, so on these you can't see how bad it looked before. But I could tell you we have some sidewalk areas that there's a sidewalk there that you wouldn't even know there's a sidewalk because they're completely grass over. But you can kind of see on this is, a number of weeks after the application, so you see we've actually gotten pretty good kill. You can kind of see the yellow grass that was previously growing through the brick sidewalk there. And, this was another location. So it does make a difference, and hopefully as we continue this on an annual basis, we'll be able to get all the brick sidewalks treated in Urbana and hopefully get the vegetation issue under control. I will point out, too, that people don't have to wait for the city to come in and spray. You can go out as a individual property owner and spray your sidewalk with Roundup or another type of product whenever you want. You don't have to have permission from the city to do it, and you obviously don't have to wait for the city to do it. So,
Brad,
yeah.
Some people I know who have brick sidewalks, they have asked, they don't know how to take care of them. They don't know that they should just, it seems, as a person who bought a new home, things now seem obvious to me years later that were completely overwhelming to me. And if I'd been a renter too, I probably wouldn't have known, I don't know. But I'm wondering if the city would ever put up a website or a URL that would just say how to take care of it, lay it out like it is the city's, we will do this thing, but if you want to do it on your own, or if you want to use a natural method, or, this is how, just a how-to. Because I have seen people actually individually replace and repair their own brick sidewalk as well and do just a fabulous job with it. So, I don't know. And then the second question I have, which is sort of related to that, is I was going for a run this weekend and people's trees were overgrown all over the sidewalk. So that was my second question, is whose responsibility is that to cut back the overgrowth of the bushes that cover the sidewalk?
Okay. Well, starting with your first question, that's a great idea, and we can look at doing that.
Okay.
We probably could do one for both brick and concrete sidewalk, because they are a little different in how you handle the maintenance. So yeah, no, that's a great idea. That's something we could easily post on the website and maybe work with BPAC and maybe the different neighborhood groups to get that information out to people.
They would love that.
So
They would love that.
we'll work on that. We'll maybe put together something, draft version of it, and bring it here to BPAC for some from input from you guys. On your second question, there is an ordinance on the vegetation. If you let us know, we will contact the offending property owners and get it addressed.
First of all, you said it correctly, and you have it spelled correctly. It is glyphosate.
Oh, okay.
And second of all, it's been in the news quite a lot and in people's food, not on the sidewalk. So if anyone wants to Google glyphosate, it's been making the rounds recently for the food items that it's been found in. So putting it on the sidewalk seems pretty tame by comparison.
Yeah, but I mean, we are sensitive. We understand there are people that do not want that on their property, and we're respectful of that. We just ask, if you want to use an alternative method, that the people do that and control, because we do want the sidewalks to not have vegetation and, be accessible to everybody.
Hey, Brad, you mentioned that it was $65,000 on the brick sidewalk repair. How much did you guys spend on just the spraying of I guess there was staff time involved in that?
Yeah, I mean, the chemical cost was less than $100, which surprised me. I thought it would be more. But it's mostly the staff time. You have to send out the notification letters, which
sure that was
there's
more
a amount of
expensive
time
than-
into that, and then
yeah.
just the physical walking and spraying it. Actually, probably the notification is the most
Sure.
time-consuming part of it. So, and like I said, it's something we hadn't done, I think, since maybe 2014. So, if you go around town, you'll notice there is quite a bit of vegetation overgrowth on sidewalks. So, we are going to try to do it on an annual basis. So, hopefully, it might take us a couple of years to kind of get caught up from when we paused from doing it. But hopefully, we'll get caught up, and it does make it different. It doesn't obviously fix the structural defects of the sidewalk, but just getting the vegetation off of it, where you can actually see that it's brick, does make a significant difference.
Brad, also on the map, I didn't see much work on Race Street. Is that because that's scheduled for a street repair and the bricks would be repaired along with that? Or
Well,
Like-
one of the reasons we didn't pick Ray Street is Ray Street is one of those areas where it kind of switches from the historic major brick areas where it's the homeowner's choice. So the areas that we picked in West Urbana were all what we consider major brick areas where it's required to go back as brick. So we didn't want to have to query the
I
property
see.
owners whether they wanted it back as. So we've kind of avoided with the brick repair areas going into the areas where it's the property owner's choice, to date. Because obviously, if you're putting a contract together, it's a lot different type of contractual work when you're doing a brick sidewalk repair than taking the brick out and putting concrete back in.
Yeah.
So,
is that bid document online?
no, it's not yet.
Okay.
It will be probably within the next week or two.
Okay. Craig, did you have?
Yeah, Bill, we do, we do have funding from council for resurfacing Race from Washington up to north of California. And the plan would be to do that work next year. And included in that work would be all of the brick sidewalks. And there's a lot of them that are in very poor condition throughout that corridor, and we would repair those with that project. And we would also redo all of the curb ramps.
Curb cuts.
Yeah,
And then, so at that time, would you ask the homeowners if they wanted brick or concrete, or would it just?
I think we'd assess it, but I think my walkthrough through there's a lot of bricks, and I think the first go with that would probably be just replace in kind, I think first, unless somebody began to, say they wanted to switch over, but there's large sections of bricks, and I think if we can just replace back in kind, we would probably do that first through that project.
Okay, thanks.
And then I thought Brad had done some research that I thought was interesting. Just, you don't have to name the communities, but you looked into other communities and got some feedback about maybe what they do with brick sidewalks as far as repair. Can you share a little bit?
Yeah, I contacted 5 communities. We are looking at changing our brick sidewalk repair detail. We currently put fabric down basically on the soil, and then we put leveling sand over the top of it. So I was inquired with other communities what their brick sidewalk repair detail was, and most of them shared with me that they didn't do brick sidewalk repairs. In fact, a couple of the engineers I contacted, their comment was, and some of these guys have been with their communities with 10, 15, 20 years, they had never done a brick sidewalk repair in their entire tenure.
I guess they hold up really well then, is that what you're saying?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And then the next thing I had, which is on the agenda, was to give you an update, and I think we had talked about this previously, but this is tied to some development that we've got going on for the Cunningham Children's Home, and as part of that development, we're looking at a shared use path. And I'll show you a map of it here just in a second, but to give you a little bit background on it, we're looking, and this would be on the south side of Country Club Road, an 8-foot wide shared use path, 800 feet long. Like I said, it would be constructed as part of the Cunningham Children's Home project. We're looking at the city contributing $50,000 towards the shared use path. Developers are required to put in a sidewalk as part of the current subdivision and land development ordinance, but they are not required for that extra cost for the shared use path. That's why the city is looking at making a contribution to that. And we're tentatively looking at, or hopefully looking at, construction of the pathway fall 2018, this spring 2019. Some of it will depend how the weather holds out this fall, but let me share with you what it's going to look like. So the first graphic, this is from actually the Cunningham Children's Home Development Agreement. So the red line here is the 8-foot wide multi-use path or shared use path that is proposed to go in. You see we are acquiring some additional right-of-way and additional easement to allow it to go in. I'll show you the actual layout. This is kind of preliminary. You notice everything is nice straight lines. A couple things I want to point out on this is there is an existing sidewalk over here, kind of where my cursor crosshairs are. You can see it's a gray line on there. So that's an existing 5-foot sidewalk. And then this is a separate parcel over here along Cunningham Avenue that they're looking at for some sort of commercial development, but it's not being developed as part of the Cunningham Children's Home expansion. So there will be a gap, which is shown as the dotted gray line here where my cursor or my mouse crosshair is. There will be a gap in there until this develops and we can get that developer to, put in the sidewalk. So I just want to point that out, make that aware. So there will be a gap between where the multi-use path ends and where it ties into the existing 5-foot sidewalk there. And then this is the multi-use or shared use path that Burns Clancy has designed. Like I said, it's along the south side of Country Club Road. Like I said, it starts over at the east property line for the children's home, and it'll run all the way over to their west property line. So you can see this is their existing, I think it's Tom Powell Drive, their driveway over here. And this is a new entrance they'll be constructing as part of the children's home school expansion. And I do have a couple pictures I'll share with you of it, what it looks like now. They haven't started construction at all on it. So this would be at the east end of the path, so you can see where the existing 5-foot wide sidewalk ends. You can see kind of back where my arrow's pointing to is a sign. There's a fence along there. You can kind of make it out in the picture, but that's essentially that fence line is where the 8-foot wide multi-use path starts. And then this would be down at the west end of the project. So this is that Tom Powell driveway looking east. So, you know, the path will come right in here, kind of along the edge of the detention basin. So, and I'll point out with that, we are right now, the design is kind of complete on that. What we're waiting for is the contractor to come up with a cost estimate. It is contingent upon the Cunningham Children's Home having enough money to do the 8-foot wide sidewalk. They want to do it. You know, if they don't have enough money, they would just be putting in a 4-foot wide sidewalk now, and we, the city, would have to look at coming in at a later date and time to do the other 4-foot to make it the 8-foot sidewalk. So I think that's all I had on that one. Any questions, comments?
Questions? No. Do you know where the multi-use path ends? Is there a curb cut or drive that goes out from there?
Let's take a quick look. Well, yeah, it'll end up right at their property line. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit.
On the, I guess on the east side where it kind of dead ends? Or it dead ends?
Yeah,
on
it'll go
both
through their
sides?
driveway, and it'll end. Unfortunately, there is no sidewalk going to the west currently.
West, east.
That is kind of a rural cross-section. That actually is township as you go to the west there. So it's ditch, roadside ditch with no sidewalk. So it will be a challenge in the future to ever extend it west of there. You know, you're probably looking at having to put storm sewer in to get rid of the ditch. There are quite a few driveway approaches very closely spaced as you go to the west too, which will make it you know, challenging as a shared use path.
Okay.
Is that got any connectivity with the work that's being done in Cunningham?
Well, yeah, it will. It'll connect into. Remember, we have a 8-foot wide shared use path on the east side of Cunningham between Country Club and Kenyon, and right now they're working on extending that shared use path. It'll actually be 10-foot wide all the way up to Napleton Way. So yes, it will. And we did get IDOT to actually put the ramps in for the 8-foot wide. So they're currently working on it. In fact, I saw they had the one, it would be the southwest corner torn out, and they'll be putting that back in to accommodate. So you will be able to actually cross Cunningham Avenue to the east and then head north, you know, onto the shared use path. Of course, we'll still have that gap in there into that section either develops or the city, you know, puts in that missing section of sidewalk. And if there's no other questions, we'll move on to the next one, which once again is another development-related shared use path. And this one is for the retreat development, which is kind of at the intersection of Lincoln and Church. I'll show you a map of that one real quick. This one is a 12-foot wide shared use path. It's 163 feet long. A portion of it is shared use path, and a portion of it is bike lanes on the driveway entrance to the development, as well as sidewalk for pedestrians. This is to be constructed by the developer for the retreat project. The city doesn't have any financial participation in this. All the cost is being borne by the developer. The city had to vacate some right-of-way on Church Street to accommodate the development. So as part of that right-of-way vacation agreement, the developer agreed to construct all of this at his cost. It starts at Church Street and proceeds west. As part of the project, too, we're getting new sidewalk on Church Street and Hill Street, where we currently have none. And we'll, once again, this will be a sidewalk that ends without connecting into something. So the city will be responsible for extending the shared use path to the west to Harvey Street. Let me jump over to the map for that.
Why 12 feet?
That was something that the developer picked. It was, wider than what we typically would require. But apparently they desired to have a wide path through their development. To give you a little bit of orientation, let's make that bigger. Yeah. So kind of where my hand cursor is down here, this is Lincoln Avenue. Right here is Church Street. This is, the other side of Church Street. Church Street does not go through west of Lincoln. So you can see there's actually a cul-de-sac bulb that comes down in here, and these are our houses around it.
Which way is north?
North would be up, pointing to my right. And, this is Hill Street over here. So like I mentioned, we are getting a new section of sidewalk on the south side of Church Street where none existed. They're extending it all the way to the end of their drive there. And the same thing on Hill Street. These were some existing residential homes, but there was no sidewalk. But once again, there is no sidewalk to the west on either one of these. So you essentially have a connection off of Lincoln on Hill, but it'll basically end at the property limits. And then here on Church Street, Church Street is a signalized intersection. And let me jump to the next one where you can see it a little better. So this is kind of a little bit more of a blow up of that area. So you can see this will be their signalized entrance into development. This is their one and only access point. There is an emergency vehicle access off of that other end at Church Street. So there is an entrance over here, but it's just for emergency vehicles. So all the vehicles will be going out the Church Street entrance. And you can see we've got bike lanes coming into the shared use path. This section right here where my hand is would be the shared use path. And then you can see it breaks into bike lanes going, through their driveway entrance. I'm sorry, these are the bike lanes, and you've got a sidewalk too that connects up to the sidewalk on Lincoln Avenue. And there's a couple of pictures of what, obviously they haven't started construction on this yet. The site plans and the closing on the project were just approved last week. So they are starting to move some equipment out there, and we're anticipating they'll start quickly on the project, but nothing's been constructed to date, obviously. But this would be standing at the intersection of Lincoln and Church, looking west. So you can see it's just kind of a gravel road that goes back several feet that serves some houses that were to the north of the intersection here. And this would be from Harvey and Church, looking east. So you can see, these are the same power lines you saw in the other picture.
Brad, is there a reason why they aren't considering going through, taking Church through to connect up to Church on the other side?
That's city property, right? I mean, it's city right away there.
Yeah, we actually own city right away all the way to connect to Harvey and Church. It's kind of a twofold answer. One part of it is I don't think the developer was interested in having that connection. The other thing, in talking to some of the residents from the area, they were concerned about an increase in traffic related to having a connection through there. So,
Well, I know they'd have an increase in bike traffic, because I often take Hill because, I'd like to take Church, but there's no way, of course.
well, and eventually there will be a shared use path through there. Like I said, the city owns right away, basically where the shared use path ends, going all the way west to Harvey and Church. So we own right away there, we can construct a shared use path. It's just a matter of coming up with the funds to be able to do that.
That would be fantastic. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's-
and that
there's
was,
a-
and
there's
that
a-
was probably a factor too, why Church Street is not extended through as well as, I mean, that would be a significant, cost over what they ended up proposing, which is essentially a driveway entrance into their development coming off of Church Street, or the Church and Lincoln intersection.
Brad, was the sidewalk required on Church by ordinance, or was it just something the developer wanted to do as part of their development plan?
Well, and we actually vacated the right-of-way on Church Streets to the developer, so there would have been no requirement for it. But it was, like I said, it was one of the conditions of the vacation of the city right-of-way that, because of what was in the bike master plan, showed that being a corridor for pedestrian and bicycle travel. That's why we made the developer do that, and why it's set up to allow that to be extended to the west. And the developer was very cooperative. I mean, the development is going to be a gated or fenced development, so they actually had to design their fencing layout so that people could travel down this corridor, without any impediment, but they could still have, kind of the access control to their property that they wanted. So the developer was very good to work with on this.
Where was the developer located from?
They're out of Athens, Georgia.
So the fence where the sidewalk ends on the west side, there will be a gate in the fence or something there? Or
Well, here,
just an
I'll pull
open,
up the maps
open
and we
spot in
can
the
take
fence?
a quick look
So
at
I
it.
think at one point there was actually a dirt path where you could get through there. I don't know, it might be overgrown now.
No, yeah, it's in really poor condition now. And I'll try to zoom in. I don't know if we can unfortunately see it enough in this detail.
So like at the top of the blue spot, there's gonna be a fence there, but somehow it'll have an opening there?
Yeah, I think the way their fencing worked was it kind of comes down and it kind of parallels like this. It doesn't show it in enough detail on this. I've got some other drawings that shows it in more detail, but essentially they were able to do it where you come in and you have to go through a gate to go this way or a gate to go this way, but the gates are set up where I think I know they're far enough back they don't interfere with pedestrian and bike travel along here.
Okay.
So that's all I had on that particular one. Did anyone have any questions or comments? And then the final one to share with you this evening is just kind of an update on the Cunningham Avenue shared use path update. Remember, this is on the east side of Cunningham Avenue, starting at Kenyon, going all the way up to Napleton Way, being done in conjunction with improvements. They've got a lot of the resurfacing done. On the pathway, they've got most of the culvert extensions installed. Excuse me. They've got a lot of the mass grading done. So they've kind of built the dirt pad that this new multi-use path is going to go on. But they haven't actually poured any concrete. So this is looking at the south end where it starts up by Kenyon Road, looking north. And you can see they brought in a lot of dirt. There used to be a shoulder, and then it dropped very quickly down to a ditch. So they've essentially moved the ditch to the east to allow a flat area to put in the shared use path. And this would be at the north end, so this is up by Napleton Way looking south. So you can see they've got a lot of the earthwork done, so hopefully here they'll be starting in the not too distant future on getting some of that concrete poured for the multi-use path. So we're excited to see them making progress on it. And that's all I had.
Okay. Any questions for Brad? or
I guess
comments?
just one question maybe on the Cunningham Avenue shared use path. Are they going to put in street trees? I'm guessing probably not as part of that project, but maybe long-term.
Yeah, there's a development agreement with the Cunningham Children's Home because there were several trees proposed to be removed. So they are supposed to plant, though it's back more on their property. I don't think there's trees necessarily included along Country Club Road at this time. There are some hawthorn trees along there that we're trying to preserve. We've met with the arborist, and the arborist's gone out and looked. There's also a couple that he wanted to get rid of, too.
And how about farther north on the east side? Will there be trees? Will the state be doing any trees as part of the Cunningham project? Or?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, so we'll have to get our arbor division to do trees.
Yeah, well, remember the parcel that's immediately adjacent to Cunningham Avenue there, that's going to be a separate commercial development. So whenever that project goes, there'll be landscaping requirements as part of that.
By the children's home?
Well, I think the children's home is looking to, thank you very much, or intends to sell that parcel. They
Yeah.
don't plan to develop it
Right.
themselves. And in fact, I think they're actively looking for a buyer for it.
But for that last one you showed, the Cunningham shared use path update
Yeah, by Napleton's.
up by Napleton's, are there any vegetation or trees going in there?
No, I mean, obviously, they're going to put back grass,
Yeah.
for any areas disturbed, but yeah, I don't think they're planning on planting any
there's-
trees.
Is there a big ditch between the road and the path?
No, the path will be essentially
I mean-
between the ditch and the shoulder of the road. So they've essentially pushed the ditch to the east
Okay.
to allow the path to
And
go
then it goes under
alongside
the
road.
interstate in a fairly narrow spot under the interstate there?
It was, yeah, there was just a shoulder, on there, and then it very quickly dropped into a ditch. So they're
Okay.
essentially pushing that ditch. They've had to add a bunch of storm sewer pipe to extend the culvert, so they actually went further east to allow them to flatten that out.
Yeah, it was amazing, amazed at how much dirt there was
Yeah,
brought
they
in
brought
for
in a
that,
lot
yeah.
of dirt for that project.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
2018 pavement marking project update by Craig.
So, good evening. I just wanted to give you an update. The 2018 pavement marking project was finished up last week. We spent about $50,000 updating all the pavement markings that were in poor condition throughout the city, Port Fair. And we put in about 10.5 miles of paint striping just for bike lanes. One thing that I wanted to show folks was some of the changes that we've made at corners. This is an example where downtown where we have a dashed area 100 feet from the intersection. We had several locations throughout town where we were still at 50 feet, so we ground those off and changed those to 100 feet. The idea is for a motorist to merge over into this space when making a right turn, so there's an avoidance of the right hook, which is a very dangerous crash for bicyclists. We also, you can see this dark area here. There was a bike symbol just like this. We went around town and we removed 84 of those at various locations through town and cleaned all those up and then installed new symbols where we needed to at the end of the solid dash. So now throughout the city, we now have a consistent system. So that was a goal of ours this year. Talked to my staff, since we're a gold level bicycle-friendly community, we get inquiries from all over the country about our infrastructure. People come to conferences, they see things, they give us a call. We've talked that we no longer can be average, we have to be above average. I don't know if we can go to gold striping, but we have to be pretty good here, and that's what we've been striving to do the last couple of years, is do a better job with our paint striping, get out earlier in the summer, try to get it done, particularly before school gets back in session in the fall. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, because you'll see those around town, and some of them, you're wondering why, and that's why. Okay? Any questions?
Just to be clear on Washington Avenue, so where I've seen this first was essentially where it's been erased is because you put in a dashed line.
Yes.
Got it.
Did you do the striping in-house, or did you guys use a third party to do it?
Third party. We went out to bids, and Varsity Striping, who's based in Champaign, and they do actually all the regional striping from south of I-80 typically down to Cairo. But they're local here. And the nice thing about that is we will work with them, so if they're rained out in another part of the state, they can call us up and say, hey, we're going to be out here, so we kind of piecemeal our striping when we can, and we get good prices that way. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Nope.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Any announcements? Anyone have any announcements?
I could mention something real quick.
Yep.
The trailhead at Weaver Park, Phase 1, is nearly complete based on what our plans were. So there's been a chip seal parking lot. I believe there's 23 spots, 2 ADA, 1 van accessible ADA spot. And then it has split rail fence around it so that people can actually see that there's a parking lot there and give it a little bit of aesthetic value, hopefully. And then there's 5 U-racks and a bicycle repair station with, I guess, the most robust air pump they make at this point in time. So, fingers
Plastic
crossed.
head or steel head?
Steel.
That's brand new.
Yeah,
Really? It's metal?
I believe so.
Good, because squirrels have been eating all of ours on campus.
I don't know.
Seriously. Which we have been told by Darrow, a huge manufacturer, that they're the first case, we are the first case of squirrels eating the bicycle pumps.
That's where we got it from.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The Air Kit 3 is what we got.
Yeah, yeah. The last time we ordered, it was plastic, but we said that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. So other than that, there's just like a portable toilet, trash and recycling, and then some landscaping. But all that needs to be done is the spots need to be striped, and Phase 1 is complete.
No lockers and showers?
Not yet. That's Phase
Okay.
4.
Cool, thanks. Any-
I've got a quick announcement.
Yep.
So September 20th is Light the Night, and I know it's going to be kind of in the right around when we're going to meet next, but I know that we've also met, and it's like the next day, hey, and it's Light the Night. So before the September meeting, next September 20th is, and it's going to be from 4:30 to 7. It's over 1,000 light sets, sponsored by the City of Urbana, City of Champaign, the University of Illinois, through the Student Bicycle Infrastructure and Programming Fee, and CUMTD. And the event runs on volunteers. So anybody and everybody you know who you think might be interested in volunteer opportunities, shoot that volunteer over that way. It's a great opportunity to volunteer, and no one argues with you when you say, hey, I've got free lights. Everybody leaves pretty happy. So it's a good volunteering opportunity for sure. Quality.
Do you know if there's any prep work needed for that, where they have like a work night to put things together or anything?
About
if you
half,
can't do it
so
during the-
half of the light sets are going to be the traditional Planet Bike blinky lights. Volunteers last year were kind of split on whether they liked the blinkies or whether they liked the strap, the silicone strap band promotional lights. And certainly the people in the community are definitely split on their light preferences. With all that aside, there's about 570 sets of those Planet bike blinkies. So the bike project will be having a pizza party where they install all the lights. It takes about 2 hours to do 575, which is pretty good. It happens fairly fast. It's like doing a lot of scratch off, like lottery cards or something, just really fast for 2 hours. And there's pizza and also, non-alcoholic and probably alcoholic beverages, all for the taking to gratitude as for volunteers to help out installing the batteries.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Any other announcements?
I would like to announce that I have been taking pictures of trucks parked on the new Green Street bikeway. And I don't think trucks understand that they can actually park in the middle of the road. And I actually don't think I know for sure they do not know that they're actually breaking the greenway by parking there. And there actually is a UPS driver who I have found out today actually just parks there on his lunch break. And people have been leaving him Post-it notes, and he kind of got, I think it's the same one who kind of got mad at me when I took a picture of his truck. And
then I called his supervisor that day.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and he parked, well, no, I mean, he got, and then he parks now in front of Hendrick House in the sidewalk. He parks on the side, instead of going, there's an actual like roundabout for your giant truck, but it's called a roundabout, but it's like, a circular thing. But he actually parks on the sidewalk because I think he was like, he saw me coming. But he like parks on the sidewalk, runs into Hendrick House, and then hops out. And I'm just like, oh man, there's like all this room in the middle of the street. Like, it's just, so I don't know. I'm just collecting pictures and having people yell at me. The Comcast guys, there were 2 Comcast trucks, and the guys just went, "Thanks for taking my picture." I'm like, well, don't park here. Like, if you obviously know you're doing something wrong, And the problem I was trying to explain, I'm like, as a cyclist, I'm stuck now here. Like, I have to turn around, go backwards. I can't, there's certain areas where you're, So my theory is once we get more people actually using it, maybe, I don't know. I have no idea. It's just been sort of a thing. And
Annie, can you send me, when you see things like that, send it to me and we will forward that to parking enforcement.
okay, yeah,
So
because that's what I didn't
citations
know
can
if
be-
I should just contact parking. I didn't know
You
who to
can.
call.
You
Like,
can-
I mentioned it to, actually, there was the city of Urbana parking, driving down, and they're like, we were told we cannot give tickets to any trucks parked on here. And I'm like, okay. So I didn't know. I'm like, I don't know what to
Yeah,
do.
you can just send it to me and we'll get with parking enforcement. Another thing that we plan to do is we're going to install bike lane signs. Those were a missing component, and we're going to be installing more of the green-backed bike symbols at basically the backside of all transit islands throughout. So we're going to add half a dozen of those so that there's a clear delineation between where bicyclists can ride and where students can walk. We have a white line, but we're going to add those. We're going to add that for, because there's a lot of them where when I brought my bike in and did a ride up and down and took a bunch of notes, and we try to do the best we can in the design phase, but there's just things that we need to tweak out. There's some missing markings that have got to get installed. So I mean, this project's not done yet, but yeah, we want to, now that we're in essence open, we really want to be vigilant in the enforcement phase because, as you know, once it starts to take over, we can't have that. So we want to, so we'll try to help you out.
And trucks can park, right, in that middle turn lane?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it just cracks me up. I'm
It's
like,
probably just a convenience thing for them.
I think they just think like they're going to get hurt if they park in the turn lane or something. It just blows.
Yeah.
I think it's like just a natural. Yeah, I'm just going to turn. I don't know. It drives me.
So please send me the pictures.
Drives me
too.
wild.
Yeah, and you can send me the pictures of the most recent ones, the Comcast fellows. I'll just start collecting a Rolodex of supervisor contacts.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
feel like such a jerk. I was like, you guys, just don't do it.
No, but they shouldn't do that.
Right.
It's very important.
And it's kind of, this is not an announcement. I just have two, how did the temp dismount zone were we ever gonna, we maybe bring that up as a future topic? That was one thing. And then, the other thing was, I was biking into work this past week, and the bike lane was full of debris, but the streets were clean, and it didn't occur to me that maybe the street sweepers didn't maybe clean the bike lanes. I don't know if that was the thing or not. I just took the lane on Washington. I don't know what happened there. And then the third question is, there are actually beg buttons on Green Street at Lincoln, and I'm not sure if this is like a bigger topic of discussion for future is, and the students, it's frustrating for the students, I can see. They're like, and I don't know if the light actually turns. Will it automatically turn if I'm just a bike waiting there?
You're supposed to.
Okay. So
Yeah.
anyway, that was,
There's some tweaking that we're trying to get worked out there, yeah. As far as the debris, let us know where it's at. You can get a hold of me and we'll get the street sweepers out. They don't discriminate, so I mean, we do all the sweeping we can, but there was a lot of storms last week, you know.
Yeah, Wednesday or Thursday night.
Yeah. As far as the dismount zone, I'll just give you a preliminary heads up. I got mixed reactions. Actually, I had quite a few complaints from people, and so the jury's still out. I think, though, we're going to go ahead and paint them over at Durst on Goodwin and kind of see how that goes first. But I got a lot of blowback, so we kind of decided to call time out a little bit and reassess.
They didn't think it was aesthetic, or?
Yeah, and there's, I have to tell you, there was a lot of criticisms about the use of bicycles on sidewalks, and then I had other people say that there wasn't. I mean, it was literally black and white, where people said there was a problem, other people said there wasn't, and I logged all that, and we.
So I'm not understanding. So the people that thought that it was a problem, did they think that the dismount zones?
So look, the pilot was to try it, not necessarily to see if it was. The idea, it's hard to measure its effectiveness, but it was, the pilot was, part of the goal of the pilot was to see if there was opposition to putting something on the city sidewalk by businesses, because years ago, the city had tried to paint something and it was shut down during the process of painting. So it's hard to gauge the effectiveness of it. I guess there were still some bicyclists that still rode. People told me they wanted signs instead, and I said, well, the signs are already there.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it
worked for you, didn't they?
Yeah,
I
right.
didn't think we were really expecting
Yeah.
it to affect cyclists
No.
in a week or however long it was there. I mean,
Right.
you know, it'll take months before it has an effect, because some people only ride on it once a month or something.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised, I guess, that people who didn't want bicyclists thought that we shouldn't put a sign on there saying that
Yeah.
cyclists should dismount. So if they're okay with cyclists just staying mounted, that's
Right.
okay with me.
Right. So, I mean, I guess what we did was we called time out, and then I think we'll move over to Durst and try to install that one as the next step, and then we'll go from there. So, I'm not giving up on it yet. I just,
It's
you know,
interesting.
there were some vocal comments, so I decided at that point, you know, hey, you know, I got enough going on, and then I did the oil and chip project, and I got a lot more comments, and I said, okay, I'm tired, so it's just.
I actually never
Yeah.
saw I just saw the picture of the dismount zone sign, so I
Yeah.
couldn't gauge the size of it, but
Yeah.
maybe if it was a little smaller or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, it looked nice, I thought.
Yeah.
I could see it, I was really happy. But somebody on a bike could see it. You
Yeah,
know, that's what I
yeah,
was
you know,
worried about.
I got comments like, well, the bicyclists aren't gonna see that, they want a sign. And I
No.
said, well, okay,
We don't
but I
look
got
for
feedback
sign.
from a commission that, you know, we thought that maybe it'd be on the ground would be better, and then I said, well, there are signs, and it's just,
The people who said that, they weren't cyclists.
right.
Okay.
Right.
And as far as the sweeping goes, when a street sweeper goes down a road with a bike lane, they'll go right up to the curb, right,
Yes.
one thing? They
Yes.
don't ignore the bike lane?
No.
Okay. I mean, sometimes in the middle of summer, it looks like that because the little pieces of glass and gravel get brushed off by the cars, and that stuff ends up in the bike lane. So
Yeah.
it looks like there's this nice clean path where the cars go, and the bike lanes have a little bit of grit and gravel and stuff. And so we can tell people that street sweepers, when they do a street, they go clear up to the curb.
You know, and it's not, I mean, we run street sweepers, I think, about 9 months of the year, and we have 2 of them, and we're running them constantly. And of course, we have 140 miles of streets, so we're, you know, all over the city doing that. But I mean, they don't, you're right, exactly, Bill. They don't see I mean, they sweep everything that they can.
Like,
so.
I know when we have, for snowplows, we have a certain order that the streets are done in after a snow event. And when we do have like a storm event like that, do they try to prioritize? I mean, it's not as critical because you can still get your car down the road.
Right.
It's not like snow. It's not like, you know, you're
Right.
blocked from getting to school because there's some leaves, and the leaves are small branches. But I wonder if it would be worth kind of thinking through if they should prioritize main bicycle routes like Main Street, Race
Mhm.
Street, Washington,
Mhm.
after a sort of a storm event like that.
Right, right. You know, and, I mean, we have a lot of trees too in the city. I mean, there's just, so they try to do the best that they can. But if again, though, if you see things while you're, you know, the squeaky wheel does get the grease, meaning that we'll respond. But, you know, it's hard to keep up on knowing exactly where everything's at.
Yeah.
At that time.
I
so.
saw it on Washington when I biked into work after whatever that most recent storm was, and I just assumed it was the cars had made the street clean, and then the debris was because in the cycle lane, and then someone later in the day posted a picture that looked like it was a different street, but looked exactly like the street I saw, and, you know, cyclists being paranoid were like, you know, are they not cleaning? And, you know, now that you talk about it, it is sort of silly to think that a street sweeper would actually be like, oh no, just going to go right up against the white line there. Like, like it's rather ridiculous. But yeah, I'll take a picture next time and send it over.
Yeah, if
So
you
that's,
would.
I mean, that's actually really, seriously, because like cyclists were like, yeah, the street, you know, they just
Yeah.
pile on. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay. On announcements, Lily, is there anything new on the bike share? Has that permit gone through yet for
We're working on it.
what?
Hey, whatever. It's currently with vendor maintenance, which is a process that's in Springfield, Illinois. So it's something that's fairly opaque to me, but it's something that is everybody who's working on it on campus and getting the contracts through is working very, very, very hard. It's something that does take time.
Okay.
So hopefully by the time, you know, by next week, the semester starts, we're hoping to have bikes on the ground then. The bicycles are registered with me already, and that's 500 of them and 500 serial numbers. So it's not like there's any physical things that are going to need to happen when the permit does go through. But
Okay. Bureaucracy. Okay, future topics.
Excuse me, I have an announcement.
Oh, sorry, Kevin.
Just wanted to let everybody know that we put together a video with the help of Lily and our UPTV and our communications specialist Bridget. Put together a video on how to use the 2-stage left turn boxes on Green Street. I don't think that we're hooked up for audio, but I could go to it right now if I got the URL right. So at least you can look at me talking, and then you can look at a mystery person riding a bike.
pass.
Oh, video's unavailable. Well, that's not good. Maybe I typed it in wrong. Okay. Well, let's see.
Yep. UPTV.
I don't know. This is also Internet Explorer, so the odds of it working were already slim. Wait, why is that? Is that right?
When we
Try.
were doing this,
No.
we were only
I
out
don't
for
know.
about 5 minutes, and we had 2 different people ask us, hey, what are these things and how do you use them? And we had a lot of people who didn't talk to us, but they were looking at us for a very long time, like they had a lot of questions. So you're probably going to hear a lot of these kinds of questions when students really come back in force and school starts. And I would love for you to be friendly bicycle ambassadors and explain this if you can. Cynthia Hoyle created a great document for it, and if you can spread that. And then there's also this video.
The three things I keep telling people are, one, you can bike on a sidewalk in Urbana. I lead up to the good stuff. One, you can bike on a sidewalk in Urbana. Two, when you see the pedestrian light, you can cross. So like Lincoln, for example, has a leading pedestrian light. As soon as you see it turn to walk, you in a bike can go. That then is the same.
Hold on though. You
Yeah.
need to dismount though. If you're on your bicycle and you're riding through the pedestrian phase, you will get a ticket. So that I just want to clarify.
That's not.
Yeah, you cannot. You have to dismount your bicycle. You cannot ride your bicycle legally by law through the pedestrian phase.
So when they have the all cross,
Yes. You're not supposed to do that. And the reason I know that is because police officers have been giving tickets.
so it's my understanding. Okay, I'm going to
Yeah,
check
me too.
with someone on that because it's my understanding they have been giving tickets and they're not supposed to be giving tickets. So we need to get this sorted.
You can't overtake someone, so I don't know how you could not overtake someone and stay on your bike.
When I'm crossing the street in the pedestrian phase, I'm not overtaking anyone. I'm staying away from everyone and slowly maneuvering through there. So this is important to know. This is a
Right.
good discussion. So we'll find out about
Is
that.
this only where there's a traffic light, or is this any crosswalk?
I'm understanding when there's, during the pedestrian phase, so that would be,
So when there's a signal.
yeah.
Well, if there's no other pedestrians crossing, you're the
Right.
only one, and there's no one to overtake, then
Right.
you could stay on your bike.
Right. That's what
when
I'm
there's-
understanding,
When
too.
pedestrians are
Yeah.
present, you're
Yeah.
supposed to dismount. That's
How
what I
about we'll do
understand.
some research and
Let's
maybe
figure
we
this
can
out, yeah.
present and talk about
Future
that a little
topic.
bit.
Yeah, let's figure that out because
I think
that's.
Kevin wants to show his video.
Okay.
I do, and perhaps I say something about using the all-walk phase.
Curious about it, yeah.
Let's see. Let me get.
Hi, I'm Kevin Garcia. On this edition of On Two Wheels, we're going to show you how to use two-stage left turn boxes like this one at Green Street and Goodwin Avenue in Urbana. Two-stage left turn boxes provide an easy, safe way for people on bikes to make left turns on busier streets. They are painted green boxes on the pavement where you can wait out of the path of traffic to complete your left turn. To use the box, if you're riding a bike and want to make a left turn, on a green light you should go straight through the intersection and into the box. Turn your bike to the left, then wait for the light to turn green or wait for the all-walk signal and ride through the intersection. If you use the all-walk signal, please be sure to yield to pedestrians. If you're driving a car and are going straight on a green light, you should only pass people on bikes when it is safe to do so. If you're turning right on a green light, yield to people who are in or are riding through the bike box before making your turn.
It seemed like you cut out the cyclist that was coming toward us while the person was waiting in the green box, but they were doing it right. I mean, they had the green light, and they should have, if you'd kept it rolling, they would have passed in front of the person waiting in the green box, right?
I'm.
Do you-
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's the way they're designed, is to be
Yeah.
not in the flow of the bike lane.
So
or
actually,
the vehicle.
it
Yeah.
would have
Yeah.
been kind of nice to have that in there if it's,
Well, that may have been, that may be on the cutting room floor,
okay.
or the digital cutting room floor, as it were these
Yeah, or
days.
maybe somebody hit stop too soon or something. Okay.
We are going to be installing, bikes may use turn box signs at all approaches. So that's another bit of information or education that will be installed. That is per the interim memo that the Federal Highway Administration put out. And I think I got Bill and Cynthia's input on that a little bit too. And but we're going to be doing that here this fall. So good job on the.
Thanks.
Yeah, no kidding,
Yeah.
it's good.
It was,
It's
yeah.
really tight, I like it.
Well, thanks to, as I said, Jason and Bridget did a great job, and of course Lily, our bike rider.
It was really good. No, it's very good. I've watched it. I really liked
And we are planning to do a video for how to use the dockless bike share and where to park them properly. So that should be coming, well, in fairly short order.
Okay, thanks. Any other announcements? Okay, on future topics, we listed the things that we have been talking about for a few months. So I'd kind of like to get to know if the people listed still want to do those, and if so, if you're ready to do them next month or the month after or something. Or
Can I ask where we are on Vision Zero? Because I think that might be, I don't recall exactly what's our next step on that.
Yeah, I don't either. Anybody recall? Let's see. We were going to get the update from in September on the crash statistics.
Yeah,
I
and
think, before we
that's
went
something
April.
that should be on the future topics that isn't.
Okay, so
But I
that-
don't think that report's been finalized yet.
And they said it would be finalized
Yeah.
last April, so
Yeah, I
I'm getting
know.
a little concerned.
But
I mean, those statistics are going to be 3 years old by
Yeah.
the time we
I think
see
the plan
them.
was for them to come back in September, though.
Right.
So
Yeah.
hopefully that'll be next month
Yeah.
to give us the 5-year, I think it was 5-year crash statistics.
Yeah, it's called the Selective Crash Intersection Location Report, short
Yeah.
answer scale.
Well, what bothers me is that it was only through 2015.
Right.
So we're
Yeah.
getting way out of date.
Mhm.
And I know 2016 like doubled the fatalities, so it's like not insignificant too. By the time they give us the update, they might as well give us 2016, if not 2017 as a whole.
Maybe they can give us preliminary numbers or something for.
At least,
yeah.
yes, because they know what they are.
So Annie, on those two topics, do you still want to do those?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And
I can, whatever people would think is useful. I mean, of the two, I think the pedestrian crossings, prioritizing pedestrian crossings, I think might be the most useful to have a discussion about. And then the effects of shutting down Main Street for pedestrian events, I mean, that's just a moneymaker. I don't know if the city of Urbana cares about that, but it just makes a lot of money when you do things like that. It's basically prioritizing pedestrian traffic. So I'm happy to talk about either one. Yeah. Or both.
okay, how about October? We'll pencil you in for October.
Okay.
Okay. Kevin, transportation semantics.
Yeah, probably not next month, but I can try and put something together in October if that works.
Okay.
If you put me on there, then it'll force me to do
Yeah.
it in a
Audrey,
good way.
Do you want to try to
It'll
get?
encourage me.
Okay. I'd like to hear any feedback from the reduction in speed on Lincoln Avenue. Those signs look wonderful. And I experienced going it, and everything just seems so much more at human scale now. I mean, because I do it at like 6 and 7 in the morning, so it's like totally relaxed.
So
now
are the signs up now?
Yeah, there's one
Okay.
25 mile an hour is implemented. We'll do a speed study here after, the students return, things settle out. We still have to install we have some enhanced pedestrian signage at each end of the corridor that we have to install that will go to flashing during peak periods of pedestrian use. We still have to do that yet. We're getting quotes on that. But yeah, the 25 mile an hour is in effect, so.
And it looks great even without the flashing. I'm not even sure I want to see the flash because everyone is just breathing as they drive down the street now.
And I didn't even realize that McKinley, I feel like an idiot, but the main health center for basically the main hospital on campus is right there.
Mhm.
It's such a no-brainer.
The similarity to the Carl and
Yes.
Prometheus or OSF situation is kind of striking there. And then I would mention D. I think that was maybe going to be Kevin Garcia. Oh, the words we use, okay. Kevin, I think, was going to talk about social media or something. Was it you? Mhm. For increasing attendance and public input.
Oh, okay. Maybe Annie. Do you want to put that on next month? And the increase in attendance?
Next month seems too soon.
Okay.
But we have,
So we'll just keep that on future then.
yeah.
So we have some things for October, and hopefully we'll have the crash report next month.
Yeah, that seems like a
So
really significant topic that we may want to have other.
Yeah, I'll contact Champaign,
Presentations
I'll
and
contact the Champaign County Regional Plan Commission.
Thank
So really-
Okay. Anything else?
A small thing that I would love to present to you, but it's not on here, so I'm just throwing it out. But we will be launching in the next couple days a website, bike.illinois.edu, on campus, and I'd love to show this to BPAC and get feedback and kind of showcase what we're trying to do and the information we're trying to get out on campus and what really is going to be also the community.
Great. Yeah, because I've actually looked at our bike Urbana. So it's kind of hard to find, but once you find it, there's a couple broken links on there, and we could probably beef that up with some stuff. But maybe we should just try to go together with bike.illinois.edu or something. Huh. Okay. So we'll take a look at that. When will that be live?
In the next couple days.
Cool.
Let's pull it up right now.
Any other future topics? Nope. Any other last words before we adjourn?
I wish there was some way to monetize that Urbana is becoming the information central for bicycle-friendly infrastructure and brick pavement.
Well, maybe we could have-
Especially if we put up this brick instructional document, we'll probably be getting a lot more questions, and how do we monetize
Maybe we'll
your,
be able to host an
staff time?
engineering conference or something and get some
Yeah.
hotel tax out of it.
I mean, I was thinking about the brick sidewalks today because in the city of New Orleans they have a similar problem. They have these streetcars, and there's only like a few people that know how to repair the streetcars anymore. And I was thinking about our brick sidewalks and how, you know, it is actually a craft to install them. Not that pavement isn't a craft as well, but I just think it is an interesting. We should maybe have a UPTV video on it, yeah. I mean, we should definitely promote this stuff.
Okay, thank you all very much. We're adjourned.